Yep. As you see in the draft, people are seeing the draft of the article. They're seeing behind the curtain. But I wanted to explain something, And so I'm going to read out the beginning of this. In March 2005, the first official police investigation began in Florida after the family of a 14-year-old girl reported she had been molested in Palm Beach residence. However, the police investigation wasn't a surprise to Epstein and his inner circle. In fact, Epstein was already aware of multiple accusations surfacing against him, and his high-profile trips with former President Clinton in 2002 had assured his fate. Epstein's cover had been blown wide open. For the first time, it led to him receiving a slew of unwanted media attention. Epstein later reportedly told a friend that same year, if my ultimate goal was to stay private, traveling with Clinton was a bad move on the chessboard. I recognize that now, but you know what? Even Kasparov makes them. You move on. In 2005, that was my best Epstein impression. In 2005, as the Epstein cartel learned their operation could no longer stay hidden, a clear and obvious ultimatum formed. If Epstein took no action, the consequences would be dire. This is where we are. 2005. Understand that I covered it in these trips. This is Epstein 101 series that you'll also find on Newspaste, which look at Clinton and Epstein's relationship.
If there's, can we just go back up to the photo for a sec? If you notice all the pictures of him and Ghislaine when they're like at a party or something like that, she's always sort of nuzzling into him and looking at him almost like starry-eyed, but he's always just giving that look to the camera.
Yeah, the same look.
He's never looking at her. He's always just looking at you going, hey, it's me.
You want to give me a massage?
Yeah.
But do you know, I think that's got to do with his very weird shaped head. Because I think he was very aware. Have you seen, everybody's seen them, the ones with him and Trump, and they look like excited little schoolboys at the White House party or some party that was going on, big party happening somewhere swanky. And Epstein looks so weird and misshapen. Is like he's got like this little body, he's a little stocky guy with this massive head that's like really big over here, really long at the front, like he almost looks like a cartoon dog in many regards. Epstein, I've always felt in photos. So I think he purposely looks at the camera because he knows that. He looks funny if he doesn't. And she...
Right, okay. That's his best profile, you're saying.
Yeah, and she wants to project that they are a couple out to other people, and that probably stops people asking questions. If everybody thinks that they're just like in love and happy and they're together, then they're not going to ask questions about why their daughter's going off on their island for a weekend and coming back crying, This article covers the Epstein and Clinton trips. And it is a very, like, especially 2002, them traveling around Asia and Africa is extremely interesting. I found this photo. This had been a previously undiscovered photo when I was researching for One Nation Under Blackmail. Was going through the archives of each of the countries' main, like, sort of photography. Like, in this was the Singapore official archives for the National Singapore Gallery or archives, and of course I knew the days that he was there, so I just went through every archive I could in every single country that I could find, and eventually I came across this where Clinton's up here and they're meeting with all these different Singaporean officials and businessmen, and there's Epstein and Maxwell down there. There was actually a selection of photos with them, one where they're around a dinner table, and some where they're walking somewhere else, but these were the journeys, and that's where he's meeting with the Sultan of Brunei.
That looks low key.
Yeah, I know. Well, Epstein and Maxwell are behind the scenes. We don't see them. They're off camera. I think they were purposely kept off camera on those ones. But that's from a Brunei newspaper. So I was able to track down the meetings in the Brunei newspaper and find out other stuff. Some of the people who rode on the African Odyssey, as I call it, included Kevin Spacey and and what's his face, Chris Tucker, and also some of these people. So this is Ron Burkle. He's quite a rich guy, Democrat backer, if I remember correctly, like most of them are, financier. And then Casey Wasserman, whose father, Lou Wasserman, is one of the most interesting men in history. They founded the Wasserman Foundation. That's extremely interesting. So those voyages around Africa and Asia are really interesting. They led to him getting a high profile, and for articles like this coming out, I can't remember when this was. Oh, there it is. So this is 2002. So this is just at the end, I think, of just after he's traveled around Africa with Clinton, and they talk
I'm
about.
loving the comment there. Epstein dresses down. He always dresses down.
yeah, I know. He never. Epstein doesn't dress up is probably most right, except in that one photo we've seen on the previous one where he's pretended to be James Bond because he's probably as close to what James Bond is in reality. So this is a very famous article. Used to have a different cover. This is a cover with the pouting cover, I think. Jeffrey Epstein, International Money Man of Mystery, and this is what raised his profile massively. And this was one of the many articles that ended up being complete puff pieces for him, but asking some questions. It's a life full of question marks. Let me just. Oh, that's why I'd put up there, because I was looking for Kasparov when I was looking through this, because this is where the quote comes from. This article where he says. He says to a friend, if my ultimate goal was to stay private, traveling with Clinton was a bad move. I recognize that now. So this is the article where he states that out loud. But this is it. His cover was broken at this point. This is important to understand that in 2002 he broke his own cover. He had managed to stay fairly off the radar, and I say fairly off the radar. I've actually got a load of sites, and it's convenient to be here. So let me just all articles, seeing as we're here.
I like the way that he's like, oh, if I wanted to stay private, I shouldn't have invited Bill Clinton on my plane into my island. It's like, no shit.
Yeah, one of the world's most famous people.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone.
Former president. Yeah, you probably shouldn't.
So here on newspace.com, I'm trying to add more and more are deleted articles that you can no longer find on websites or archive sites, being completely deleted, that were about the Epstein case. And so this shows that in about 2000, it's taken a while. Oh yeah, that's because it's already loaded up. So this is from February 20th, 2000. And this is from the Sunday Times in Perth, Australia. And they're talking about the Duchess of York and Prince Andrew, and then Prince Andrew's relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell. And then they also, like most of these articles, also make a quick reference to Epstein and say, oh, and there's this other guy who's around. That's the same one. There's this other guy who's hanging around. Look, Captain Bob's Girl Afloat. Here we go. This is from 1995. So he was already a little bit. There was some questions where they say one of the most coveted Christmas invitations in Sydney last night proposed harbour cruise in a 100-foot yacht organised by trucking magnate Lindsay Fox. This may have something to do with the guest of honour, Ghislaine Maxwell, the beautiful, feisty 34-year-old daughter, the late disgraced media baron Robert Maxwell, and her millionaire American beau, Jeffrey Epstein, a property developer who's given to zipping around Manhattan in a Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit. So they're starting to notice him even in 1995, and up until the noughties, they're still noticing Jeffrey Epstein.